Lester Black bringing more content for us about this industry. And without further ado, California's most innovative pot companies are giving up on the legal market. We'll see if the article supports that headline. Kim Howard has spent the past 6 years trying to keep her cannabis cosmetic company alive in California legal cannabis market, selling her cannabis-infused eye creams and skin serums at dispensaries across the state. But late last year, she finally gave up. She returned her state marijuana license and pulled her Green Bee botanical products from the state dispensaries. Yet, in an ironic twist, she's never been more optimistic about her company's future. She thinks quitting the recreational market could be the best thing that's ever happened to Green Bee botanicals. That's because she joined a wave of California entrepreneurs who have pivoted to the hemp industry, turning their backs on California's embattled marijuana market in favor of the federally legal version of cannabis called hemp. Howard said pivoting to hemp has meant lower taxes, cheaper regulations, and the ability to sell in 30 states across the country instead of just in California. Rather than the thorny obstacles we had to crawl through in California's marijuana industry, it's like being in a regular market, Howard told SFGate. Now we're going to be able to have e-commerce site online and sell to every state that allows CBD. With the legal marijuana market imploding, some of California's most innovative pot companies are bypassing the state's regulated marijuana system entirely in favor of recategorizing their products as hemp. Green Bee Botanicals transitioned its award-winning cannabis skincare line to hemp this summer, following other companies like Wild, the top edible brand in California, which now sells THC-rich edibles through the hemp market. The San Francisco company Rose, which partners with some of the best chefs in the world on exclusive weed edibles, told SFGate in November that demand has skyrocketed since its shift to the hemp market. Even the Truffle Man, perhaps San Francisco's most iconic marijuana figure in the past decade, has fled the marijuana market to sell his famous confection in the hemp industry. The company also said on its website it sold out almost as soon as it opened its hemp business. The exodus is sending shockwaves through the industry, bleeding an already troubled marijuana market of needed businesses and the customers who would shop there. It's also befuddling regulators. Thank you for that word, Lester. I love that. Befuddling regulators who are unsure of what to do as intoxicating hemp products are sold outside the protection of state regulations. What actually is hemp? California's shift towards hemp was set in motion 6 years ago when an oversight in Congress accidentally set off a boom in a long overlooked side of cannabis. For decades, federal law didn't differentiate hemp from marijuana. They were grouped together under the word marijuana on the list of Schedule I substances, the most restrictive class of illegal drugs in the country. In 2018, Congress decided to legalize hemp by removing it from the federal definition of marijuana. Separating the two pot categories is very difficult, however, as they are the same exact species, cannabis sativa, L. Scientists still actively debate how to differentiate hemp from marijuana, but nearly everyone agrees that Congress wrote an incredibly sloppy definition. Federal lawmakers decided that any cannabis plant that contains less than 0.3% delta-9 THC by weight was hemp and everything else was marijuana. Here's the problem. Hundreds of active chemicals are in pot, and delta-9 THC is just one of them. Many of these other cannabis compounds get you high. Congress apparently didn't realize this, so lawmakers inadvertently legalized hundreds of different cannabis drugs like delta-8 THC, a slightly different version of a more familiar delta-9 THC. This has allowed a proliferation of hemp drugs that look nearly identical to the marijuana sold at state-regulated dispensaries. For example, Cookies, the most famous San Francisco pot brand, sells the THC hemp flower online, which the company says is not a huge amount different from regular THC, but is convenient, easy, and safe thanks to its legal standing. It looks nearly identical to the high THC marijuana flower pot sold at Cookies marijuana dispensaries. It didn't take long for the cannabis industry to find even more loopholes in the law, which has allowed them to sell delta-9 THC openly too. Rose and Wild sell hemp edibles that contain 10 milligrams of delta-9 THC, just as strong as THC edibles found at legal dispensaries. In closing, these loopholes are a nightmare for state lawmakers and public health advocates who worry that intoxicating drugs are being sold online and at gas stations and easy to reach for children. Congress legalized hemp drugs like delta-8 THC without establishing a federal minimum age for purchasing. These hemp products also face almost none of the product safety regulations that legal marijuana must pass through. Yet officials have been unable to shut down the growing hemp industry. Instead, it has become a multi-billion-dollar market that's flashing like a lighthouse for troubled marijuana operators who are looking for a reprieve from the rough waters of California's regulated marijuana industry. And in closing, like night and day, Bridget May, Howard's business partner at Green Bee Botanicals, said the difference between running a hemp business and running a marijuana business is like night and day when it comes to dealing with regulation. It can take years to get a marijuana license and millions of dollars in fees, but May said when it comes to running a hemp business, there's pretty much nothing to deal with. And that, my friends, is the problem. Teddy Kabougas, the president of Sunstone Winery, shared a similar story after his company pivoted its cannabis-infused drink from California's recreational market to the hemp industry. It's two different worlds of permitting, he said. One is going to cost you an S-ton of money and a lot of time. The other is going to cost you no money and almost no time. There are practical considerations when companies make this transition. They must reformulate their products with hemp sources instead of marijuana. For farmers, that means just growing different plants. But for manufacturers like Sunstone or Green Bee Botanicals, that process can take a much different route, especially regarding how much THC is in their final product. Blah, blah, blah. Scanning through. This article is really long. To make hemp even more enticing, companies no longer have to will no longer be required to charge their customers California cannabis taxes, which Howard estimates will make Green Bee botanical products cost 30% less. Those benefits have made the hemp industry irresistible to marijuana entrepreneurs and farmers, according to Andrew D'Angelo. Shout out, Andrew, cannabis consultant with 2 decades of experience in California's cannabis industry. If I'm a legacy grower, I'm going to spend $500,000 getting a marijuana license. Well, I can save hundreds of thousands of dollars, build the same goddamn thing, and grow hemp. So, of course, people are going to do that, and D'Angelo says. The growing battle over hemp. With the hemp industry surging, there's now a growing war between hemp and marijuana, with dozens of states passing laws to crack down on hemp sales. California lawmakers are jumping into the fray, proposing a law, that's AB 2223, that has erupted into controversy. Opposition to hemp has united strange bedfellows, bringing together the marijuana industry with public health advocates who have spent years attacking pot. Licensed marijuana companies are angry the hemp industry can sell nearly identical products without paying steep licensing and other regulatory costs. Public health officials are concerned underage youth have access to hemp products sold online without age verification. So I could keep going on. This article is quite long, but I think y'all get the gist here. We're at this crossroads. We're covering this in a variety of other stories, including the one that Mr. Denkin covered earlier with the lawsuit between 2 Colorado companies. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I would like to know what my other panelists, pundits, and cohorts think and feel about the article I just covered today.
Well, that was funny, but I want to just say shout out Teddy Kabougas. He's right here in Santa Barbara County. Sunstone Winery's a great friend of ours, and they actually produce right down the road with our friends at Green Rush. Shout out Green Rush. And they also produce Hello Again at their manufacturing facility. So, he's absolutely right. I mean, there is it's such a steep barrier of entry financially that it doesn't make sense. And so that's why people are going that way. But that's why we've seen the proliferation. And I was just on a, call with a alcohol distributor, one of the biggest in the United States that will remain nameless. But we're talking the beverage distribution game, and we're talking what it's like and what it's like in the future. And I'll tell you right now that the cat's out of the bag, but there's no stopping it if the feds reverse their decision here, and we do see a retraction and not an advancement in these rulings and these changes into that farm bill. But we see it here. I mean, you go into any Total Wine, you go into any Bevmo, you go into any store, you're going to see a beverage in there, and I would love to see what the sales are like, but I know that the distribution has been opened up for a lot of that stuff. So it's just like, it's a whirlwind. If you're in the cannabis regulated market versus the hemp market, it's a whirlwind for you to realize what's happening. And it's kind of unfortunate because the work has been done by a lot of people. So it's it's something that I don't know if a sorry would even fix.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry that you couldn't make it. I mean, that sucks. And I feel bad for people. I feel bad for anybody losing their money. But I also want to say a lot of these people that are like, oh, I'm out, I'm going to hemp, probably shouldn't have been here in the first place. They were coming in because they were Green Rush. They got a little excited. They're like, oh, I'm going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. This industry is the fastest way to lose $1 million, not make it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's definitely not for the heart.
Yeah, I'd love to see the numbers. I would love to see the numbers first, but just judging.
They don't want to show those numbers, bro. It's embarrassing.
I know. I know that.
Okay.
But yeah, just giving it the eye test, I do have to side with Jenny Beth on this one. Like it's a lot of folks that just couldn't make it. That are going hemp. They're going to shrooms and trying their hands in those markets. But
is that why there's so many people in the psychedelic space?
Yes, the same thing that happened.
Especially the first wave.
Yeah, that
especially
makes a lot
the first.
of sense.
Yeah, especially the first wave. Like all the people I saw like at these shroom events and parties and stuff, they were a bunch of motherfuckers that could not do a goddamn thing. There's a lot of Chads, mostly Chads, but they couldn't do a goddamn thing in cannabis, and they were not willing to make the moves to get ties with the community because they had no ties initially. And they're like, oh yeah, let's go over here and talk our shit over here, and let's establish all the shit that cannabis couldn't establish because why? Because I'm white.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Rico, you're
No, you're not.
You're completely right, and it's not even the white part. It's not even the white part. And you're not white either, bro. Come on. But I will say, you know,
there's a lot of what I was seeing in these. There's a lot of what I was seeing.
Oh, I know, I understand, but it's a lot of the chat.
Call him Rico Black, but his shirt's white.
His shirt's white.
With his big green eye. And here's the reason why people hate me, because I'm going to be honest. It's also I see a lot of people who have established they have no personality. They have no reason why anybody gives a shit about them. And so they're like, I'm going to get into cannabis today. I'm going to be a weed girl. Okay, well, some of us busted our asses to be here. So please stop fucking up weed, psychedelics, all these industries. Just go get a job at the store, Karen.
Or how about be a waitress?
So
wait a second. Who hates you, Jenny Beth?
I don't know, but they got
back to that.
Taste, I'm telling you.
Well,
so I like look, a commentary, sort of maybe going back to focusing on policy. You know, what Saman is talking about is the United States federal government can't pull a Thailand and backtrack, flip-flop, and try to his point, the cat's already out of the bag. The question becomes, how do we align regulated cannabis, which is overregulated, underregulated hemp, and how do we create parity? How do we create an even playing field and regulate cannabinoids irrespective of which plant they came from in a way that doesn't ding the innovation and the margins that hemp entrepreneurs are starting to realize with new form factors like beverages and DTC, which they can do that cannabis operators can't. But how do we throw a lifeline to the regulated cannabis industry so that they can also benefit? I think that's what I would love to hear if any of y'all have some ideas around that, because this AB 2223 that is currently stood up in California is going to allow licensed dispensaries to sell hemp-derived cannabinoids that are created out of state, which means that entrepreneurs from other states with lower cost of goods sold in less expensive markets are going to be able to send their cannabinoids hemp-derived to California and sell them in dispensaries.
I have a question, Yarrow.
Why can't they put it back in the bag? Because they've done it before.
Yarrow, I have a question. You only reference out of state. Does that mean that they couldn't sell in-state produced products? Because right now dispensaries can't sell hemp products already.
They can sell in or out of state, and hemp-derived cannabinoids will be allowed to come into California to benefit from what is arguably the largest cannabis economy, but do not need to be produced in what is arguably one of the most expensive places in the world.
That's interstate commerce, though.
We don't have that for cannabis, but we have it for hemp. How do we level the playing field?
They're already selling in stores in California.
Exactly, they already are.
They import from other states, so it's not dispensaries; it's all the other retailers.
That's right, 100%.
So
what
it's
you just said.
Yeah, it's thousands of retailers already selling imported hemp-based products.
So why go to a dispensary?
Because I think that they can. I think that they
can. Because those dispensaries are missing
Saman,
revenue.
You can't talk when someone else is talking.
Well, he was asking me a question. I was just responding.
That's fair. All right. But I disagree, Yarrow, because they have put the toothpaste back in the tube with hemp before. It's called the Marijuana Tax Act. So why the fuck couldn't they do it again? If the federal government decides to shut down hemp-derived cannabinoids, then they can absolutely do it. Are we going to have a hemp trap? Sure we will. But they can absolutely do that. And I think, the rising tide does not raise all boats. That dinghy at the end of the dock with holes in it is going down. And sometimes, I feel like in cannabis, we get too bleeding hard about this. We don't have to save everybody. If your business doesn't work, your business doesn't work. And I think that we should throw a lifeline, and it should be more evenly yoked for the operators who are paying and doing well. But I'm not trying to save everybody. Like the plight of the small farmer is sometimes the small farmer. And maybe, that box of flour you grew that used to be good because you had a box and would sell now needs to be trimmed. It needs to taste like something. It needs to smoke well. It needs to be a better product because we have a more evolved market. So sometimes people just fall out, and that's part of the process.
And different shaped box.
It's interesting because Brian Dombrowski says most people are getting into hemp to pay their 280E taxes for their federal illegal marijuana business.
Interesting.
Well, he's got a perspective because he's currently working for a company down there in Texas. Brian, what up? And so he doesn't just have an opinion. He's in that industry right now.
Yes, yeah. That's why I acknowledge his opinion, is because I know he's in the space. So it's always interesting to get all this other perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and shout out to all of us in hemp space.
He also says, "Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rico."
Smokable. I'm just saying, whether it's smokable, whether it's edible, or whether it's on your clothes, like hemp is hemp. And he also, there's a lot lower hurdles to clear.
He also says, I ship urban bud to California every day already, you guys. See? So I feel like everyone has maybe I'm missing something within this bill, this 233, that everybody has their arms all and up with. But to me, I just feel like it's just going to allow dispensaries to be able to sell hemp products. And so all these hemp people should be more excited about this because of that fact that they're going to have more outlets to be able to sell to.
Yes, but it also puts the regulation or oversight under the DCC, which looks like it's a tax grab. And I don't know that everybody thinks the DCC is doing an amazing job already. And so adding this to their plate.
But of course, I think that the only reason that the DCC would have oversight on it is if your products are sold in a dispensary. So, because other than that, the DCC only has jurisdiction in licensed facilities. So the solution, if you don't want to do that, is don't sell to dispensaries. Pretty easy.
True. Yeah.
I don't see why all these people all up in arms about all this craziness, losing sleep over it. Doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when it actually happens. And I think people, just like you said, Jason, like people losing sleep over it. Like now, like we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.